Hi, I'm Kelly Cahoot from the Diocese of Sioux City Catholic Schools. Welcome to Brilliance in the Room. Leah, welcome.
Thank
I'm
you.
Kelly Cahoot, Director of Ed Services for the Diocese of Sioux City. Coming to you from Boone Sacred Heart, from the middle school. We want to amplify the voices of teachers doing innovative things, and so that's why I'm here with you.
Okay.
I would love it if you just introduce yourself and what you do.
I'm Leah Kruse, and I teach middle school math and science for 6th through 8th graders here at Sacred Heart.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about your family, because I know that's all you do.
Yeah, I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys that are between 7th and 1st grade in ages. I coach lots of sports outside of school time, and I am a convert, so I became Catholic when I was 22. So I have a different element that I get to bring into religion class because I kind of grew up without that Catholicism in my life. So that's been kind of a fun add-in for this for me. We've been here for 10 years. We live on a farm. So that's kind of where most of my time is spent, is outside of here. I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years after graduating from Iowa State, and then came back actually as the art teacher here. And I've kind of bounced to wherever she needed me for a couple of years. So,
and it's a family affair. Your husband's the president of the board this year,
yes,
so
that's
everybody's
true.
involved.
Yeah, my husband's here. All 4 of our kids were here. Our oldest daughter actually transferred to the public school this year, so she's newly out of the building.
Sure,
but it was a good growing pain for us to have to be together for 3 years would have been a lot. So yes.
Okay, so I guess the first question I have for you, and the main question to start us off, is really what has changed in your teaching and learning practices? I know you haven't been teaching, you taught 4th grade in art, like you said, so different focus, but what has changed in the way you teach?
So I think the biggest change that I have noticed in myself is my focus is so much more on whatever it is that the child needs at the moment. So in 4th grade, a lot of it is you teach the curriculum and you kind of just stick with whatever you're supposed to be doing on that timeline. And this was a huge opportunity for me to get away from that. I didn't love that anyway. So being able to really look at each kid and what they can do, what they can't do, maybe things that they missed 3-4 years ago that they might have been gone for, or they just didn't quite understand, and being able to work that into their everyday and helping build their confidence through success that way, I think is the biggest change for me, is just how I deliver the information.
Sure. Okay, so you teach math and you teach science, and I know the math, it's a little bit easier for that competency-based piece because you've got all 3 grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all in one classroom at the same time.
Sure.
So how does that look different from math and science?
So like you said, in math, we I just pre-test them all. So whatever they're in focus groups based on content right now. So they got to choose if they wanted to be in geometry and algebra. And then I pre-tested them based off of that to get a good starting point, I guess, to see where they were or what they needed to practice before they were ready for this. And in science, I have a guideline for 6th through 8th grade. So like all the standards for 6th through 8th grade. So I've separated into a 3-year cycle of physical science, earth science, and biological sciences. So I split the standards up, and then I did all 3 years of standards for each year. So it allowed us to do some really cool in-depth things in biology last year, and in earth science this year we're going way deeper than I would have probably with a 6th grade group if they were by themselves. Sure. But I'm able to scaffold it so that they are able to follow in and not drown in it, even though they would be 8th graders when they were taking it normally. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of want to focus on the math. Tell me, you have a program that you use that you kind of use to help differentiate?
Yeah. So I discovered the Freckle program before we started this, the summer before we started this, would have been last school year, as a trial basis. And I liked a lot of things about it. I liked that it did a lot of data tracking for me. I liked that it had pre-made assessments that I could manipulate. There are problems with pre-made everything because I run into things that are incorrect sometimes. And I just have to know, like with the kids, they don't like to know that they got things wrong. So if they if there was a mistake on the actual assignment, then I'm like, obviously you don't have to redo this because this is a mistake. You're doing all your work right, so the answer is wrong. Big deal.
Right.
So I used Freckle as my baseline a lot. So I do all of my assigning out of there. Some of their practice they do. I have kids that like to do on paper, so I have a good repertoire of assignments and different practice assignments that they can do, worksheets, different things that they can practice with. But all of their assessing is done through Freckle. So.
Okay.
And, yeah, and some of it is verbally with me. So I have a few students who can't do that on their own. Freckle also reads them all their problems if they need help, but typically they kind of ask me first anyway.
Sure,
So
of course.
they end up inevitably talking to me one way or another. But I also read through all the tests to a few of my students and let them talk through answers instead of having to do them all on their own writing, so that they can be successful.
So when you have kids and doing work at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels, what does that look like? So you have kind of a common theme that they're working on, or a topic?
Not really.
Okay.
It starts out that way typically. That, like I said, we picked a content area. So like right now I have kids in geometry. I have them doing things from initially labeling what shapes they are to graphing those shapes with coordinates. And that's a pretty vast difference in what they're working on every day. Sometimes I have 2 or 3 that end up on the same thing, and then I can work with them all at once, but that's pretty rare. Honestly, some of them, they just work through things so much quicker because they know they can. And if they really understand things, I don't make them practice it over and over again. If they've shown me that they can do it, I just let them learn something new.
Tell me about some of the students and maybe a frustration level if they're working on something and just can't get it.
So I've run into that both last year and this year already. So sometimes things just don't click, and we know that. And even choosing what topic you want to be interested in first can be kind of difficult because there might be something in a different standard that would help you be successful at this one.
Sure.
So I have tried to guide them a little bit more this year, where I wasn't as direct last year with that, just because I know the numeracy is really important to start with. So I've made them all kind of start there this year.
Right.
That way they could build up their number sense before they try to apply it to something more difficult. So I guess sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So that's basically what their focus is on, the content first, and then wherever it is that they lie in the spectrum of 6th to 8th grade, that's where they work. So once they can show me their grade level, I always introduce their grade level first. Sometimes they're way below that, and then we go back, build some skills. And sometimes they're way above it, and then they're ready to work, a grade or 2 level ahead.
So you've totally blown up the time-based piece of education, which is exciting to me. But how have kids adapted?
So I really expected there to be more pushback from them doing something different than their friends. But it's actually turned into they don't even care that they're not doing the same thing as each other. They're able to ask questions of other kids. So Freckle has a built-in component that gives them a list of students that have already passed the standard that they're working on. So if it happened that they are working on something they really have a hard time with, and I'm helping someone else, they have 3 kids they can ask automatically without having to ask me first who they can talk to. So that part is cool. That's a neat element. It also comes with tutorial videos. So if there's something that they really don't know, it's built in there. Sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't. And, that's part of the pre-made curriculum materials. I also give them access to Khan Academy videos pretty much all the time. And sometimes there's just specific YouTube channels that I trust that I give to the kids as they get through it if they need somebody else to explain it besides me, pretty much. That happens more often than I would thought it would. But they don't always understand it the way that I'm explaining it. And that is pretty typically how we've done things. So that's a big shift to rely on someone else and trust that the kids know how they want to receive the information instead of how I'm giving it.
Right. On that note, you really were, the curriculum you have is illustrative math, correct? And so you kind of had to throw that out the window a little bit.
I did in a way. So there are parts of it that I miss sometimes. The illustrative is so group-based, like partner-based. There's a lot of conversations that can't happen in this multi-age group. So illustrative is where I had intended on starting. And then when I started looking through the curriculum materials, it is very all-encompassing. So I couldn't give them assignments at a specific standard because it would have practice problems from 5 other standards that they hadn't done yet. So it was kind of counterproductive for me to use the series at that time. And we're pretty new to it. So these kids have only had it, 2 years, I think, before this. So they're not super ingrained in the process yet either.
Right.
Which was helpful because they kind of had established
clean slate.
They established a new way to do this. Yeah. So,
okay.
But yeah, illustrative. I do use illustrative practices sometimes. If somebody's struggling with something specific that I can give them a practice worksheet for, I just print those online materials because I still have access to all that. But pretty often they like getting it the same way as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So they get comfortable with
They
that.
do. It's funny. No matter what it is, they find comfort in the repetition
right.
of it. Yeah.
Right. Can you tell me about, I know I've walked into your classroom before and kids are working on projects.
Sure.
So can you tell me a little bit about maybe one of the projects that you've done?
We did a big project this fall for math that was all about scale factor, which technically is a 6th grade standard, but I can apply it to all 3 age levels just based on changing the numbers and difficulty of the math. So,
and the critical thinking that was involved was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I bought them each a candy bar at a regular size, and they had to measure it, and then they had to scale it up by a given number that I provided to them. And then they had to draw it. So there was an art element in there too. And we were talking about stream being the new fad. And the kids were like, what is the A? I don't understand. And then I got to show them like, it's art because you're drawing and you're using these creative skills on top of it. Some of them hate those. Some of them love it.
Right.
That's pretty much middle
So
school.
taking STEM from STEM.
Yes, to adding an artistic element. Yeah. So it's not just about what you build, but how you build it and what it looks like. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's fun.
Science has been, we're doing all Earth-related things this year. A lot of what I've started with is introduction of topics because there's a lot of background knowledge that's lacking for some deep diving. So we're getting ready to start building buildings that are earthquake proof. So we've been studying earthquakes, tectonic plates, how that works right now. And so hopefully right after Thanksgiving, we'll be able to build our own earthquake plates, and then they're going to be building structures to withstand earthquakes. So that's
fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for this time. I feel like, again, we might need a little more time to dig into a few more pieces, but I appreciate this introduction to what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any suggestions for people who might want to try competency-based education, or even just that autonomy, giving students a little more autonomy or personalizing learning?
I would say my best piece of advice is guide them through finding out what their interests are. Because that was my biggest struggle, I think, going into it, is they don't really know what they like because they haven't had a lot of opportunities to pick things based off of their interests. So they have learned not to have as many interests, especially in science is what is my biggest place. I noticed it. There's not a lot of just intrinsic, curiosity. I want to know how this works. Yeah. So finding those things that spark their interest, which right now it's been the supervolcano in Yellowstone, has sparked a lot of their interests because they think that's super interesting. But had I not introduced that, they might not even have known that they liked it. So being able to be flexible with what you introduce, how it's introduced, how they give you the information back is a huge part of success with this. You just have to roll with a lot of things.
So allowing them a few different ways to show you what they know rather than just having one product.
Oh yeah. And that started out as I have to give you a lot of options for what you can do because you don't know what that looks like. And now they're like, can I build a video to show what this is? Absolutely. Can I make a booklet to have the class do? Sure, why not? So those are things that I, 1, didn't know existed in 4th grade, and 2, the kids were already using them, and they're using them to develop their ELA skills. They're writing, writing things for me, writing scripts for me, and then they're turning it in for ELA points for reading 4s for her. So we're able to cohesively help each other be successful with the kids as well in that way. So.
And have them understand that some of these things these are real life skills.
And I have some come in that are like, I watched this commercial and they were talking about all these information for this kind of candy bar. Is it okay if I turn this into a ratios and proportions graph for you? Absolutely. Please do.
So
they're coming up with some of their own.
That's exciting. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.